Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media's publications, Transformer Technology, Power Systems Technology, and Women in Power Systems. We're here at the IEEE PEST&D conference in Anaheim in 2024, the 60th anniversary. These interviews are with thought leaders to be able to bring the best of the marketplace to you. My next guest is Billy Lau. He is the CEO. You're the CEO of DILO, right?
I'm the CEO and general manager, yes.
Oh, that's a tough one. You got a boss yourself.
It makes my business card really long.
Yeah, I know it does. The general manager has to do the work. The CEO has to make sure it's profitable.
Correct.
It's kind of an interesting thing.
Correct.
We're going to talk about DILO in a little bit. Okay. First of all, Billy, how long have you been in the industry? Because I met you 12 years ago. I don't know if you knew I was at the Doble conference.
That's right. Yeah. I recall that. It's been about 32 years.
Okay.
I came in straight out of the military, got recruited by a friend of the family, and got introduced into the industry.
Out of the military, what branch?
I was in the Army. I worked on turbines for the M1 Abrams tanks, so I have a lot of turbine technology background, electronics, hydraulics, and that's kind of what allowed me to be a candidate that they desire to have for field services.
Okay. And so you've been with DILO the entire time?
No, I have not. I started back with a company called Cogenel Alstom, which is now GE Verona.
Oh, yeah.
Back in New York, in upstate New York, in a little place called Blauvelt, New York, outside of New York City. We grew and continued to grow the service group, and became eventually Arriva and Alstom again, and so on and so forth. So 19 and a half years, basically, with that organization. Yeah,
and then with DILO.
And then I had a transition through Siemens. I actually had a transition through Siemens.
So you worked with two of the big three.
Two of the big three. I was director of services for North America. We dealt with everything from transformers to metal-clad switchgear and everything in between.
Right.
GIS, AIS, etc. So quite a bit of exposure to the different sides of the electrical utility business and the industrial power side too.
Well, that's what I want to go to. The industry is pretty static. You know, there was old installed base. There was change, but not much. Yes. And then pre-COVID, you started to see, hey, that switch. Post-COVID has just been phenomenal. It's like a hockey stick.
It's definitely been a massive change, and a lot of it is driven by what's going on in regulations, changes in the regulations. The industry is looking for how to be more, influential towards being a steward of the environment.
Right.
So that is really causing a lot of the growth that we're seeing. You walk through all the booths here at this show, and you'll see all sorts of different types of options of gear and equipment and what's going on in the industry. And it's definitely influenced by the changes of the environment and the regulation.
So what do you think the biggest opportunities are for your company, specifically for service company? Because that's what you do, right?
Correct.
What are the biggest opportunities you all are seeing?
Definitely in supporting, consulting, providing direction technically to users of insulating gases on how to either consider the change if they want to make a change towards a greener fleet, or how to maintain their existing fleet and still meet green initiatives. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in service organizations such as DILO Direct to improve what goes on inside, deal with the low-hanging fruit, if you will, first, and then tackle the more difficult challenges.
AIS versus GIS. Footprint is one of the areas.
Yes.
GIS has its own set of problems because of the SF6, and they're trying to change. They're trying to not because it's not an unsafe gas as much as it is an environmental gas.
It's an environmental concern. Yes.
Yeah. And I know that all three of the big three are working together, collaborating. They're not creating one replacement. They're creating each of their own branded replacements, but they all interwork. What are you finding in that change? Are you seeing any of it now, or is everybody waiting for the replacement gas?
Well, the technologies exist.
Right.
They're being proven. There's a lot of research and development still ongoing. Changes that occur as research and development is further advancing. the technologies are looking back and saying, okay, we need to make improvements. So I think what most organizations or utilities, power providers are looking for is, let's see some decision making so we can decide what path to take.
Okay.
I think that's what they're holding out on the most. And nobody wants serial number 001. Everybody, they're like, I'll be happy at 005 maybe.
Yeah.
That's
I want the first to be second.
Yeah, I want to be farther down the line. Exactly.
Not a lot of early adopters in the utility world. Data centers. Data centers lend themselves to GIS, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, explain why.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of power draw.
Yeah.
They're requiring their own infrastructure for electrical power, for protection. Data centers, obviously, a lot of them are even tied to Homeland Security, a lot of them tied to the corporate world. So there's a lot of interest in maintaining a stronger, more, and meeting an environmental grid solution for data centers.
Yeah.
We could talk about the big names like AWS and Meta, and they're the ones that are they're already building their own organizations within their organization just to deal with their management of power and utility services into their data centers.
Kind of tells you how important it is, doesn't it?
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely important.
I always thought of DILO as a service company. You said consulting and helping make decisions. Tell me a little bit about that.
No, absolutely. So we're not only just on the services side, to your point, we provide a product as well for gas handling and equipment like that. And that's kind of where I tie my consulting aspect to it. We want to provide solutions to their problems, right? That's the buzzwords, right? But at the same time, what we're offering is that there's so much misinformation. There's so many big gaps in what is being said and what is being presented, because there's too many moving parts.
Right.
So our role is to make sure that we not only provide them a product that they can use for their solution, but how to use that product properly to maintain it, not only from a safe aspect, but environmentally healthy, and also to sustainability. They need to have this equipment that is going to last them 15, 20, 30, 40 years. Well, it doesn't work without maintaining that equipment and knowing how to keep track of it. So that's where the consulting aspect falls in, is giving them those guidance, lines and terms.
You are a labor-intensive segment of the industry, right?
Extremely.
It takes people to do what you do, and it takes people to do what they do around what you do. You consult with them, somebody still have to go out and touch it, feel it, do it. Talk to me about how the industry as a whole is handling that, and then how DILO is handling it.
Yeah, I mean, I could say that's been a challenge for as long as I've been in this industry. There's such a large gap between what I'll call the apprentice to the journeyman level. And this goes across all facets of the industry. So what's hard is that we're trying to bring in skilled labor in an industry, or not even so much an industry, but rather the time that we are in that now, right? Our generations are looking at, hey, how can I get more into computing and more into, the doctors and the lawyers, obviously that's a term, but it's hard to find skilled labor now that are willing to meet these physical requirements that we need in our workforce. And so what I see a lot of organizations doing is aggressive recruiting. More recruiting organizations are popping up and offering their services. A lot of subcontracting, which is a great opportunity for service organizations such as DILO Direct. But at the same time, we also have to fill the gap with that knowledge too. So we're right alongside trying to get that recruiting done. But that's what I see a lot of the organizations doing, is just being really aggressive in the recruiting, but turning to outside resources that have a better handle of bringing in skilled labor. And like you said, labor-intensive organizations need that. So
you said from apprentice to journeyman. There's a lot of training. There's, of course, on-the-job training, but there's a lot of basic skill. They usually come in unskilled.
That's right.
There's not a lot of skilled workers that come into it. They're unskilled until you make them skilled.
That's right.
And then they got a path up to journeyman. How big are you all into training?
Very large. We've ramped up our training over the last number of years to concentrate on how do we bring an unskilled individual to have the knowledge to be able to operate on their own. Many of our field service technicians are they're lone wolves. They're out there doing it on their own. I mean, again, technology's helped us a lot. Having cell phones, having the ability to communicate instantly has changed a lot. But we've invested in training centers. We've invested working with our factory in Germany for training. We've invested in outside training resources. That's what it takes, because again, the recruitment process is so vigorous and so difficult to find, like you mentioned, people with already the skill. We're in a niche market.
Yeah,
So finding a guy who just left whatever technical university or non-technical university or schooling and say, hey, come over and work with sulfur hexafluoride or another insulated gas, and they're like, we really never even heard of that. So you're starting from nowhere. So you have to have those training investments in place already to bring in people. And it's also a great way for morale. People will stay when they see that you invest in them.
Yeah, when you care and when you invest in their careers.
You have to care for their careers.
SF6 is going to go away at some point, right? You all are going to be central to that, because a lot of people are going to say, hey, we got to replace this. Is it a retrofit? What do you think it's going to take, and how's it going to work?
Well, I'll start with this. I'll be surprised if I'm on my deathbed and I could say there's no more SF6.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see that. But it's not just a typical retrofit. This is why there are so many questions. This is why nobody wants serial number 001.
Yeah.
Because it takes more than just pulling out the gas and putting in new gas. It takes a change of infrastructure, changing engineering, new tooling, and what we just talked about, a whole different set of training that is still being developed. It's still working. And then not to mention how to operate that equipment safely and understand what it is, the impact on their grid, on the environmental goals that these companies have, both financially and, operationally. So, yeah.
I hope somebody's telling the regulators that all those problems are there. Just don't put a date certain and think there's going to be a switch.
I'm glad you said that. There is. I mean, we're part of a coalition under NEMA, the SF6 Alternatives Coalition. And as part of that coalition, we work with the regulators quite a bit.
Okay.
And so one of our objectives is to work with them to educate them just as much as they're going to educate us on regulation. We want to educate them what's going on the engineering side of things, on the design side of things, and the negatives and the positive impacts of this humongous change in regulation that's requiring change in our industry. So it's important to educate them just as much.
The advances of it, the advantages of GIS over AIS, just from a space standpoint, for a lot, it's not just space. It's still a growing area. We're still selling SF6 insulated breakers, right?
Yeah, I mean there's long lead times right now, right? I've been saying this, I call it the toilet paper effect. Everybody got worried. They see the regulation change. Hurry up, go out and buy that toilet paper. Well, hurry up and go out and buy that SF6 equipment. Yeah. Hurry up, go buy that SF6 that's available right now, because we're going to run out of it, or and that's not really what's happened. There's plenty of SF6 in North America. We just need to know how to we need to again consider the fact that it's 100% recyclable, 100% with minimal emissions. So then we can do a lot more than just have to bring in virgin SF6. Let's use the SF6 we already have here in the infrastructure.
I did not know that. You can recycle?
100% recyclable.
Really?
Absolutely.
Into what? Just recycle back into
Recycle back as SF6. Okay. Put it right back in the supply stream.
Okay.
100%. And you just said it, Alan. There's users out there that don't even realize that they could reuse their SF6. And so again, education, that's the big piece. We got to get out there and let them know. And even in the regulation, in the EU, for example, in Europe, they even have it in the regulation. They'll allow reuse of SF6 as long as it's reconditioned, but they will not allow virgin SF6 to enter the EU. Well, we're looking at that here too, and how we can implement that, because that'll definitely lower the carbon footprint and really contribute to a great environmental objective, which is to reduce the greenhouse gases.
And allows a delay in changing, because we're going to need it, and it's going to create we don't need another thing that makes supply chain problems exacerbate. Exactly. We already have enough.
We call reuse of SF6, we call it the other alternative. It's the other alternative to virgin. Why invest in virgin SF6? Especially with all what's going on in the world. There's some conflicts, obviously, that are impacting deliveries of virgin SF6. But like I tell all our customers, don't worry, there's plenty. There's plenty of SF6 here. We don't need to really bring any more in.
So here's your new marketing slogan. Replace your SF6 with SF6.
That's right, exactly.
I feel we're going to go, what does he mean? Tell Corey I said that.
Okay. I will.
What do these people mean? That's excellent. I want to end two things. We're doing a tribute to NEDA, okay? And a tribute to IEEE PES. The NEDA one's in June, the IEEE PES is going to be in August. So we're just taking, I'm going to ask one question, we're taking a bunch of answers that we think are the best answers, and I know you're going to have a good answer.
Okay.
And we're just putting it into a section of our magazine that will end up being about 12 to 16 pages. It'll be NEDA.
Okay.
And the question is, what is the value to NEDA to the industry? And the next one's going to be, what's the value of IEEE PES?
Right.
And you can speak as, from a personal standpoint and from an organizational standpoint.
Right.
What's the value of NEDA?
The value of NEDA, obviously, again, I fall back to the education. I think NEDA setting the standards is extremely important. The value is that we have quality product, sustainable product by following what NEDA's presenting and what they enforce in their standards. I gotta say, I mean, the education part of it ties to everything we're doing. If you let up on that, then the gaps that we're experiencing will get even wider.
So they augment or supplement your training component because they have a lot of knowledge that you
do.
Yeah.
Especially electrical testing. I mean, that's the big thing. And again, bringing that knowledge to the forefront and allowing individuals to learn more and implement it properly in the field safely.
Yeah.
Number one,
safely.
Level of quality. Number two, that's going to make, again, a much better system for all of us to rely on. We need reliability in the field, and it starts with the type of NEDA testing that has to be done. So
excellent. Next question. IEEE PES. The value of IEEE PES.
Favorite subject.
Okay.
Favorite subject. I am blessed to be part of the K0 working group. So I'll speak from that. And I'm also part of in substations and also in the switchgear side. The value there is the standards that are being written, the guides that we're writing. I'm currently finalizing, hopefully here, the SF6 gas handling guide that had to be renewed from 2011.
Okay.
So the value there is, again, giving a reference that can be read by anything from a field user to the engineering level on how to properly, safely handle SF6 in the field. So that's a value right there by itself. Right, yeah. The documents that we provide, we just worked with another one, our mobile substation guide. What considerations and how to properly spec out a mobile substation that's going to have an insulating gas, possibly some additional, transformer options or switching options, and even onboard gas handling equipment, monitoring, etc. An individual can take that information and basically develop a specification around it with that guidance. That's a value that's just irreplaceable.
Right.
There's industry experts, both in NEDA and in IEEE, that have come together and put that information for the individuals who may have not been exposed to it. And so they're able to turn to these experts without having to talk to each one of them.
Yeah, right.
And it's on a piece of paper, a document they can access electronically or hard copy, and develop a spec or create a process on how to safely handle SF6 or insulating gases that are not SF6, how to handle those. That's a big gap. Nobody really knows that. Yeah. Very few of us do. And so we're putting that on documents that individuals who need to know but don't have the ability to go to all these meetings or attend all these things, they can just reach out and grasp it.
One of the things of IEEE is for the benefit of society. It is a group, and you epitomize it, lifelong learners, lifelong givers.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Billy.
Thank you.
I appreciate
you. Thank you so much.